Guys, trans kids, should we be pushing on it, on the parents? If an 8-year-old wants to become convert, trans, I don't really know what the word is, should we be pushing? Is that okay? Should we be normalising that? If an 8-year-old says, I want to be an 8-year-old boy says, I want to be a girl?
Normalize it, but also ensure that the kid has all the support they need, including psychological and psychiatrical if needed be.
Evaluation.
Yeah, so just make sure it's their own ideas, because I do believe children are allowed to form their own ideas to a certain extent. But I also realize how easy it is for them to be influenced by stuff. So,
because that's literally 100% of the nature-nurture argument. Let's face it, nurture's pretty powerful. So let's face it, we are influenced by everything that's why we have 16 and 18 as cut-off points.
Yeah, so those cut-off points are completely arbitrary. Your maturity depends on so much more than just your age. So I think that with the adequate support and support by people that are professionals in this field.
And a process needs to be in place.
Yes.
And anything else from you guys? Trans kids.
I think I agree with what he's saying. I think that you have to have like the option available or like the resources available, but you also have to have like a wide enough net of like information, education, support to fully understand like what you're doing, especially as like an 8-year-old kid or like a younger kid.
Yeah, I would just say like encouraging gender fluidity and like, you know, in every stage of life. Like I think it would make it easier than, you know, you don't see yourself as one thing, you're not one thing or the other, you're just who you are.
So as you could see there, this is probably going to be a little bit of a cracker of a video because, yep, you guessed it, university students, right? Now this is at the University of Sussex. Yeah, you can imagine the total wokeness that goes on in that university, especially when you have royals, technically, who are supposed to represent you, and they are probably the most annoying and woke people in the whole of the celebrity universe, aka Harry and Meghan Markle, because he is no prince and he deserves to probably take her surname just purely because he's not the man in the relationship. Let's have a watch what these people have to say about the gender ideology. And you let me know what you think below. Like the video if you like it, and please subscribe. And also share it with your friends if they don't believe that there are absolute nutters out there like this. And yeah, like I said in the past, YouTube hates this channel. So best way for you, like I said, hit that subscription button and also hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Now let's get into this.
Anti-trans violence that they experience in prisons.
Okay, well I think that's pretty great. I really appreciate that, guys. And that's definitely the best. That's the best sort of interview that we could get. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just ask you some straight questions. Do you think there are more than two genders?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And could you name some of them for me?
Male, female, and then an umbrella of non-binary genders.
Oh, that's interesting. An umbrella of non-binary. But an umbrella, as you say, the umbrella. So there could be 50, 60, 100.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I see it split in like sort of three in that way, but yeah, what do we know?
Oh, okay, fine. So, okay, that's pretty straight. So there's lots of different genders. Do you think people should be able to identify as any? It should be socially acceptable for people to identify as whatever they choose in terms of gender?
Yeah, I don't think it harms anybody if you don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so live and let live, basically. So if I was to identify tomorrow as a female, if that's how I felt, and I'd been feeling like this for some years, you'd be okay with that? If we were friends, for example?
Absolutely, yep.
What about transgender and kids? Do you think that it's okay to be in pushing, branding, marketeering, any of the above, profiteering, even pushing the agenda of trans on children? Do you think that's okay?
I think the most important thing is if a kid speaks about their gender, then you listen to them and take them seriously, because that's proven to have better outcomes for that kid. So, you know, if a kid wants to change their name, their clothes, hairstyle, whatever, then like do that, support them in that.
Of course, but those choices aren't the same as your gender, are they?
No. But if it's coming from a place where they're feeling bad about their gender, then that's fine.
So if a 30-year-old couple or a 40-year-old couple had an 8-year-old child, and that child completely unfiltered, on its own, of its own accord, through whatever it's seen and heard, said, I want to be this, the parent should take action and essentially push the idea rather than disable it.
It's not so much pushing. Like, listen to the kid, let them guide you in it. Like, if they
Let them guide the parent.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you. That's great. That's very kind of you. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. So the topic at the moment, hence why we're at Sussex today, is transgender and the issue of transgender and rights and gender as well. So just ask you some straight questions.
Okay.
Do you think that there are more than two genders?
Well, I don't really think there are. Well, it's sort of a. I think gender's kind of a spectrum, kind of. I don't think it's like two separate things, if you know what I mean. I just think like you sort of look how you want, sort of dress how you want, sort of thing. Because if you think about it, like when you're when you're born, you're already put in these sort of boxes.
Yeah.
And you have to either sort of follow that.
It's one big stereotype.
Yeah, or you kind of think, oh, I'm not going to, or you sort of, there's not. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So there are an indefinite number of genders.
Yeah.
So if I said there was 50 or 100, you'd say yeah.
Yeah, but then not all people use like labels.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
People just kind of.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, do it.
Could you name the genders? If you think there's more than two. The stereotypical two, if you think there's more.
I guess people use like, I don't know, non-binary, but that's, I guess if you're using non-binary, that says that gender is a binary. Technically it's not if you go by the sort of view that
it's a bit ironic, that one.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. So I guess you can't really name it because some people don't go by labels. If you look in other cultures, like I can't remember what the tribe is, but there are certain tribes and stuff where they kind of have a third sort of gender or role, or they have like mixed kind of opinions of how people should act and stuff.
Yeah, and we should probably look at where those tribes are and how they live, because it probably wasn't comparable with Western life and how we live. But I see your point. I'm conscious of time. Can I ask you, on the subject of trans activism, do you think that we should be pushing children to transition to the opposite gender? Do you see any ethical or moral implications there?
I mean, I personally can't say anything because I've not got a child. I mean, I didn't go through that.
But your opinion as a voter in the UK matters.
Yeah. I mean, I can't.
Do you think we should let kids be kids, or do you think we should push it on them?
I don't think it's pushed on them. I think people that. I mean, I think most people who are sort of like trans, they kind of know from like young age, and I feel like people who aren't trans, we can't fully kind of put ourselves in that position and say to them, oh, you can't transition or something, you can't do this.
So do you think it's possible to transition to a different sex?
I mean, it's hard because when you're young, your brain's not as sort of like developed and stuff.
You're not fully developed at 12, for example, as you are at 20.
No, but then you kind of know yourself better than what other people do, so it's kind of a sort of dilemma. I don't have a straight answer for that, honestly.
It's very difficult. Can I ask you a question? Do you know when you were a child, did you know what you wanted to be?
No.
I wanted to be. I know it sounds really cliche. I wanted to be a superhero, but it's a good job that I've grown up, because otherwise, if I wanted to transition to a superhero, I could go and jump off that roof, couldn't I?
Yeah. I think it is definitely more of a cultural thing, because if you look at other sort of, I don't know, like countries, they kind of view gender as like different, and I mean even like families, because I was sort of raised as quite a gender neutral, like I was just sort of left to do what I wanted, basically. I was allowed to play with like boys' toys.
Yeah, pink wasn't forced on you as a colour.
No, actually my mum dressed me in sort of like blue stuff. So I was personally raised as quite a kind of open-minded sort of person.
You were left to make up your own mind, your own decision about.
But then I know that not everyone gets that kind of upbringing, so it's kind of, it's very culturally kind of dependent, I think.
Do you just lastly, do you think that pushing marketeering, branding, profiteering of anything to do with the idea of trans and kids, do you think that's child abuse?
I don't know really.
Can an 8-year-old make its own decisions?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think they can. Yeah, I guess. Again, it depends how they kind of view that sort of how they've been raised and what they kind of what sort of view they have, and I don't know. It's quite hard.
It's complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. No, that's fine. You've done amazingly. So just lastly, if it's not, and you're saying that an 8-year-old could decide something like that, they don't have the mental capacity, as we've already established. If they wanted to start drinking from a bottle of scotch, and you found that if you had a kid, then you could argue, well, they're actually doing what they want to do, so leave them to it.
Yeah, well, I do get that point.
The uni aren't accepting that. Who the fuck is?
We're talking about our institutions here, so it's quite a big topic. So on that, it's very, very kind and very useful of you. Would you be able to name any genders for me? I mean, obviously I know about 2 of them.
So there's female.
This is where she tells me she's a gender PhD student.
I'm not, but I do run LGBTQ events.
Yeah, sure.
And safe spaces for everyone.
So yeah, go on then.
Female.
Yeah.
Male, non-binary, trans, students. There's so many more. I'm female identifying myself, so so I don't really feel like it's my place.
Sure.
But the thing is,
you're allowed to do that though, right? You're allowed to identify as what you want.
Yeah,
if they
exactly.
can, you can. Do you see any potential consequences? Because there's consequences for everything.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are angry because they don't understand.
So a lot of division, a lot of anger.
And division, it creates war.
It creates war.
And that is just not what it's about.
That's not what we want it to be about.
No, it's about community and respect and love for each other, and that's all it is.
And what about getting more specific and closing up now? I appreciate your time. What about the issue of safe spaces for women and bathrooms?
It's important. It's important.
And women not wanting to be with biological.
Trans women are women.
Oh, I see. So so men wanting to become women who go through that process are biological women. They can become biological women.
No, not biologically.
No, in terms of gender identification.
Gender identification, trans women are women.
Yeah.
They have been women. So gender and sex is a completely different
They're
thing.
2 different things.
Yeah. And gender is what you identify as when, and that also
social
cuts
construct.
out. It cuts out. It cuts out such a big group of people who, people that weren't assigned their right birth
Sure.
when they were born.
Yeah.
And it cuts out them from the entire equation.
That would transfer into sports as well, as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, I think
If for example, in contact sports, boxing, rugby, the really nasty stuff where we get hurt. Speaking from experience, that's you're completely fine with if a man identifies as a woman, if she's gone through whatever,
trans women,
if whatever they've gone through, then they should be treated equally as that gender.
Yes.
And within all domains that we're referring to.
Yes.
Okay, I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's just start by asking you, do you think there are more than 2 genders?
Yeah, okay. But if you asked me this a year ago, I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So
a lot's happened in a year.
Yeah, coming down to Brighton, actually, I've opened my mind to so many things, and I would say everyone has their right to be who they want to be.
So there's more than
one, yeah.
More than one, more than 2. Would you be able to name any of them that help someone educate someone like me, basically?
Oh God, it's like my exam question. Okay, so you have the male and the female, then you have the transgenders, and then you have the gender fluid.
Gender fluid.
Yeah. And I think there's one. Yeah, there's one more. It's like I can't really remember it right now. It's like in the back of my head.
Okay, but you've named 4.
Yeah, because in my class.
Oh, okay.
When we did the introduction and everyone said their pronouns, so some people will prefer to say.
Are you made to say that, or is it just accepted now?
No, it's just accepted because I'm black, and for a very long time we'll be fighting for our freedom as well, and the right to be who we are, and to have equality.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why I have to judge someone for being who they are.
You can relate to the. So when I say movement, you're saying actually it's more like culture.
Culture, yeah.
You can relate to that.
Yeah.
So if we look at all societies throughout modern history, at some point there are huge volumes of demographics who at some point have either been penalised, persecuted, and there's millions of examples, aren't there? So what you're saying is that culturally you could align with that.
Yeah.
But do you see any negative outcomes or consequences for the direction we're headed in, where we start looking at how people can identify based on how they feel, rather than, let's say, biological science or facts? Do you see any negative consequences?
I don't see any negative consequences. It's just like if anyone have a problem with it, it's just gonna be for themselves. Like, you don't have the right to decide for anyone. I don't see any negative impact as well, see, we're all fighting for equality, but I don't see why one person has to be superior than the other. If we're all equal, then there will be a common ground for everyone, and we all can relate.
Do you think it's the same? Do you think we can draw the same parallel? The struggle for the black man, do you think that's the same as the struggle for the female trapped inside the male body? Are they not two very different struggles?
It's two different. I wouldn't say it's the same.
Because we're minimalising what that particular demographic have been through by saying that. Because it's not the same.
It's not the same.
I take it you guys are students.
Yeah.
Super. So if I could just ask you some straight questions, would you have said there were more than two genders?
More than two genders. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And what about you, young lady? Would you have said
Yes.
more than two genders?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not particularly educated on the subject. Could you tell me the names of those genders?
I'm not too sure, but I guess there's obviously if you identify as a male, if you identify as a female, it's non-binary.
So male, female, non-binary. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but that's as far as my knowledge goes, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about your good self?
I just know that people who identify as different genders have different pronouns as well, so they can use they them pronouns. Like non-binary would use that.
Yeah.
I'm not that educated either.
So it links to the use of pronouns as well.
Yeah.
So could we argue that there are, let's say, 100 genders, or is there a line somewhere where we say no, that's probably the amount of genders that there are?
I mean, I guess you could draw a line, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not. If it doesn't really affect you, it doesn't really matter, I guess. People can identify as what they want. I think the best thing is just let people do what they want to do.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, that was my thoughts exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, if people want to be a certain way or identify as a certain thing, leave them to it and foster that type of culture. Is that right?
Yeah, like it literally does not affect you in any way, so it's literally fine. Just leave it, really.
And would you agree with that?
There's no need to discriminate.
Yeah. So basically, it's part of the equality, anti-discrimination movement. Can I ask, as what I understand so far, do you see any negative consequences or any damage control required at all?
I think it's kind of just encouraging people to get educated, but I think the only negative I would see is like kind of looking down on people for not knowing that much about it. But I think being more warm to people and kind of just telling them about other genders and stuff like that is probably the best thing, rather than just kind of like making it be frowned upon that people don't know about this stuff. So
So no direct consequences.
I don't really know. No.
It's a difficult one. I find it's a good one. I checkpoint my own views, so that's why I like to ask people. Okay, and just lastly then, so if I turn into a woman, if that's possible, and I go and compete as a biological man in female sports, that's fine, no problem there.
I think it's kind of a different thing, because I think at that point it's kind of, well, I might be wrong here, but like at that point it's kind of like you should kind of base that thing off of sex rather than gender.
Sure.
Because I think at that point the line becomes very like
sex and gender being two different things.
Yeah, of course. Like I think people that are of the, well, I don't know if that's like saying the male sex. I don't know if that's right, but they should be allowed to compete in their own sex.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, because with gender it's kind of it's hard to draw a line with that. So I think going off of sex is a bit...
Well, we've made it cultural, haven't we? So.
Yeah, exactly.
So female XX and male XY. When you I don't know what the procedure or the process is, but basically what you're saying is that if you identify as a gender, that technically that does impact your biology, that does change your biology, and we're trying to make things fairer. So if that group wants to go and if a biological male wants to punch another female in the face, that's kind of okay.
That part I'm not too
punching
sure.
anyone in the face.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Oh, well, obviously, I mean, as a pacifist, I'm a pacifist as well. Closing thoughts. I can identify feelings are more important than facts. What do you reckon? Shared bathrooms. I'm a female, and I don't want to be with a biological male, regardless of how tall his or her high heels are. What do you think?
Wait, can you repeat the question again?
So if I'm a biological female, I don't want a biological male in that safe space. I think that's incredibly. I think personally that's incredibly dangerous. That has very, very. If I'm a female, I don't want a biologically strong male, regardless of how they identify or dress. I don't want them in there with me. Any thoughts on that in closing?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, at that point, it is affecting you. It's affecting whether you're comfortable or not.
Have like trauma that could relate to
exactly like
anything like that. But
Yeah, sure.
I feel like same gendered, but like all types of gendered bathrooms are fine for
Straight questions, straight answers. Are there more than two genders?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not aware of it, so it's a bit of an education for me. Can you name them?
So it's a spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yes. So there's two opposites, and then there's everything in between.
So male and female, and then everything in between.
Are biological terms, so it will be man and woman, and then everything in between.
Yeah, no, I agree with him. He's put it, yeah.
Pretty well said.
Yeah, it'd be hard to like name like the different genders because I think it's like how he said like where you identify in that spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, you can be masculine presenting, you could be like feminine presenting, but that doesn't necessarily mean male, female. It's just how you're presenting yourself, and there's so much in between.
But where do we draw the line? If I hold the door open for a woman, that's misogynistic, and let's face it, that's pretty toxic, isn't it? Or am I just being chivalrous? Now, that's one of a million of examples. Yeah. So where do we draw the line?
I don't know. I think drawing... Because, like, you're drawing... it's drawing line of behaviours, I guess.
You're talking about people's behaviours. You're talking about their motivators.
Yeah, but is that related to, like, someone's gender identity? Is that... I don't think that's...
I don't think it is related. I don't think it is. I think people are people. And I think we're using... I think potentially with the argument, we're using the idea of gender to almost unify us under the same umbrella, but biologically, we're very...
Yeah, we're different.
Biologically, sorry, we're very different.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just scroll now. Sorry. We'll wrap it up, guys. Trans kids, should we be pushing it on the parents? If an 8-year-old wants to convert trans, I don't really know what the word is. Should we be pushing? Is that okay? Should we be normalising that? If an 8-year-old says I want to be an 8-year-old boy says I want to be a girl,
normalize it, but also ensure that the kid has all the support they need, including psychological and psychiatrical if needed be.
Evaluation.
Yeah, so just make sure it's their own ideas, because I do believe children are allowed to form their own ideas to a certain extent. But I also realize how easy it is for them to be influenced by stuff. So,
because that's literally 100% of the nature-nurture argument. All we are is let's face it, nurture's pretty powerful. So let's face it, we are influenced by everything between. That's why we have 16 and 18 as cut-off points.
Yeah, so those cut-off points are completely arbitrary. Your maturity depends on so much more than just your age. So I think that with the adequate support and support by people that are professionals in this field.
And a process needs to be in place.
Yes.
And anything else from you guys? Trans kids.
I think I agree with what he's saying. I think that you have to have like the option available or like the resources available, but you also have to have like a wide enough net of like information, education, support to fully understand like what you're doing, especially as like an 8-year-old kid or like a younger kid.
Yeah, I would just say like encouraging gender fluidity and like, you know, in every stage of life. Like, I think that's just, it would make it easier than, you know, you don't see yourself as one thing, you're not one thing or the other, you're just who you are. Okay. I'm trying my best to put my professionalism hat on. I was the last breed of individual that went to university because you just did. It was just the thing. 2002, top-up fees I think came in 2007. I left in 2006. Southampton alumni, rugby, boxing, friends, beers, banter, snake bites, some scraps. Just education, learning, late nights in the library. I'm finding it difficult to even surmise what the experience was. It just was. I have my own views on the progressive agenda, and there's a lot I could say about that. I am at Sussex Uni, and we've been interviewing people about some topics that are trending and that I think are very acidic. And we've been talking to people today. I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I feel sad and sickened. I'm nothing short of desperately sad and sickened and depressed. And I'm not sure whether I'm more upset and on the verge of tears or angry. But I know that I'm clenching my hands right now. I am so pissed off because our institutions, both corporate, M&S, introducing pronouns on the name badges, our Sussex Uni's a Redrick Uni, it's completely woke, it's completely left-wing, but it's not centrist, liberal, freedom, equality, liberalism. It's radical left. These are not academic institutions. They're indoctrinating, brainwashing camps.
their camps. I am sickened as what I've seen today, and I'm comparing it with just a few miles down the road where I was at Southampton. When we left uni, it was you went for higher learning, higher education, and I got a 2-1 in an amazing subject that I'm using in my career now. That was it. 1 + 1 = 2. I am sad and I am sickened. I'm depressed and I'm angry at what I've seen. Batshit crazy doesn't even come close to what I've seen from these people today, and they fully believe it. And you'll see from the footage, guys, they fully believe it. I can morph into anything I want, and that's absolutely fine. And if you question, most terrifyingly, if you question the established norm and their agenda, you are, by definition, they'll use certain words, and I'm not going to use those words, but I've mentioned the point in some of the videos that the outcome that they seek is done and delivered by authoritarianism. So you've got sick, twisted, weird, bizarre, evil logic run via totalitarianism, which is what they probably would stand against because they want to undo history and want to move forward in this progressive manner. I'm exhausted. I'm totally depressed. And lastly, and most importantly, actually, and I wanted to make sure I got this in, I believe in the cause right now and what we're fighting for. I believe in this heart and soul, and 100% will die on the hill and all that, on the sword and shield and all that good stuff. I feel so sorry for all my brothers and sisters who are conservatives or who are conservative leaning or who are anti, whether you call it anti-woke or whether you call it anti this radical brainwashing, indoctrinating, degenerate, toxic bullshit, whatever you want to call it. All my brothers and sisters, at university is supposed to be the best days of your life, and I believe there are a huge amount of people at these universities. I've heard from one person say that you had to intro yourself in a class and you had to use your pronouns. That's abuse. That's 100% abuse. 100%. And if you talk to people and you watch the video, you watch the content, guys, these people don't have real arguments. They don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really understand. They don't have a footholding of what they're talking about. It's all just trending cultural Marxism nonsense. So on a personal note, I really feel for all my brothers and sisters up and down the country who are either liberal, centre-right, or right-wing conservative, and they're depressed, sad, and they're just fucked. They're so alone. They're so alone, and I feel so. It's supposed to be the best days of your life. You're not a kid anymore. You're not a full adult, and it's the last chance you've got before you go into the big wide world, and it's being fucking bastardized. And that's literally the best word I can think of, is bastardized. It's god-awful, evil, toxic shit. Your years are being wasted. Don't go to uni. Leave it. Go and get a career. Go and get a job. This isn't real life. This isn't real life. They're brainwashing camps. I'm fucking sick to death of it. I'm out.
Look, yeah, he said it pretty well there, right at the end. To break it down is they just believe this crap. You know, they believe it because this is what they get told at universities, and this is not just in, you know, Sussex, this is in America, this is in Australia, at all the top institutions in the world, unfortunately, where, you know, the smartest kids are supposed to only make it in, and they are literally brainwashing them from the smartest down, right? Where usually it's the other way around. Usually it's the, you know, the dumbest people who get brainwashed pretty quickly. But, you know, imagine going to university and then you know who your kid is. You send them off to university. They come back, you know, after 1 year at university and then a whole different person. Because everything they've been thrown at, there's, you know, obviously this arrogance that university students have, and that's thinking that they're smarter than everyone, think that they are smarter than people just because they are studying something, when in reality anyone can go to university, right? Anyone can go to university this day and age as long as you pay the money. Then they don't give a heck anymore. They are happy to take that money, and for them to just not care to push it onto kids and, you know, oh, you should just be able to do what you want to do. It is just the total nonsense, I guess, that a lot of people have. And this is why there's a lot of pushback this day and age to say that, you know, you should be a certain age to be able to vote. And then you hear about the Democrats wanting to drop the voting age to like 16. I mean, what do you know about politics, right, when you're 16? But the one that I said what they should do, because in Australia, it's actually illegal not to vote. You actually get fined if you don't go and vote. Now, what I think they should do is give just a blank piece of paper. All right, just a blank piece of paper, and they ask, who are you voting for? You know, this is in America, for example, if it's Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, if they spell the name incorrectly, if they can't write Trump, if they can't write Biden, then I believe the vote shouldn't even count. Because I believe you should do some sort of research into who you vote for. You shouldn't just go there and be like, Democrat, 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 whatever, you know what I mean? It should be, you should actually know what you're voting for, and that'll just never happen. People just don't care that much. They'll just always vote for whatever they see in front of them. Here in Australia, I mean, you got to vote. There's like a one system. So if it's your favorite, your favorite candidate, you put them at 1, your second favorite's 2, third favorite 3, then your least favorite, for example, could be 5 or 6, whatever it might be. Yet again, I think it should just be a blank piece of paper. Fill out what you know, the names that you know, and the numbers that you know, and that's it. I think it's just too easy this day and age to brainwash people and make them vote the way you want them to vote by just saying, here's a piece of paper, Democrat this person, and Republican this person, and Liberal this person. It should be write down who you want to vote for to kind of earn that vote. Just in my opinion, that's just what I think. I mean, do you agree? What do you think? There's a way we can kind of bypass these idiotic people who just really don't know anything what they're doing and destroying the countries at it. I mean, you look at France right now, they voted in the far left again. And, people were sick and tired of where the country's going. It's falling apart. There's just so much unrest. The country's dirty. The country is pretty much disgusting. If you go to a lot of places there, the country towns are very beautiful, well taken care of, because it's, French people that live there. But if you go into Paris, there is just, it's almost like if you go to, like a Asian country, for example, like Thailand or whatever, and people always come up to you and be like, hey, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy this? That's what it's now like. And a lot of pickpockets in France as well. And yeah, that's where it's going, and that's what they vote for. So that's unfortunately how you got to live, right? If you're a Parisian and you're in Paris and you don't want to deal with that crap, I guess you got to move out of the city. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents, I guess. But I'll end it on that. Like the video if you liked it. Please comment as well. Let me know what you thought about it. And I'll see you in the next one.